On today's show, Alex Ovechkin and the Capitals offense comes alive and downs the New York Rangers.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minutecast, available wherever you find your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about the Capitals as they pick up a huge win over the New York Rangers. Make no mistake about it, this was payback. This was retribution for last season when the Rangers swept the Capitals. Well, Alex Ovechkin gets 2 goals. Dylan McIlrath lays the smackdown on Rempe. This was a perfect game for the Capitals. So what changed? That's the big question. What changed last year versus this year? Well, a lot changed. The offense for the Capitals showed up as the Capitals have a really great 1-2 punch in the first and second lines for this team. And not only that, it's the defense, it's the net minding, it's all coming together very, very well. And the big thing out there to start the game was Dylan McIlrath and Rempe getting in a fight. I knew that this was going to be a truly great game. I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll talk about the defense and how they had to step up in Jakob Chychrun's absence. And ultimately, what does that mean for the Capitals with Jakob Chychrun leaving the game? How much time will he miss? But just to get it going here, Alex Ovechkin is huge and helps lift the Capitals over the Rangers. And this was quite a game for the Capitals. And I'm going to say in a true display of offensive skill, Ovi scored 2 goals. A big thing, as he struggled to score goals this year, he found a way to get off the schneid, to use that term, and contribute scoring goals. And he did it. He led the way, leading the Capitals to a 5-3 victory. And this is a really good Rangers team. I mean, make no mistake about it. This wasn't like they took down this poor team in the NHL. This was a huge victory for the Capitals. This is a huge morale boost. I think the Capitals should have quite a bit of swagger coming out of this. And it's a big win as it improves the Capitals' record to 6-2-0 for the 24-25 season. So coming off that tough loss against the Lightning, I know it's interesting that it was all doom and gloom for a lot of people that, oh my God, I can't believe the Capitals lost a game. They're not that great. Listen, all of that was erased this evening with a big win over the Rangers with Shesterkin in net and all of the offensive firepower that the Rangers have. And, just to exemplify what I'm talking about, those top 2 lines, Dylan Strome as well had a big game out there, contributed with 2 assists, maintaining his impressive streak of points in 7 out of 8 games. So Dylan Strome is rolling for the Capitals. And, of course, it's Alex Ovechkin. It's Dylan Strome on that top line. That was the offensive spark plug for this team tonight. And not to go get swept under the rug, Logan Thompson was huge as he made some big saves, saved 16 out of 19 shots. And not to say that, Charlie Lindgren wouldn't got the Capitals the dub, but in any event, Logan Thompson, it's a really good tandem is what I'm going to say, going back and forth, was huge for the Capitals. But to put a bow on top, if it wasn't good enough that the Capitals were ahead by a goal, Nick Dowd sealed the win with an empty net goal marking his third goal in 4 games. So again, the fourth line getting contributions as well. This team is truly firing on all cylinders. And, you take a look at that top line, and kind of improbable. Alex Ovechkin, is this going to be the thing? Is this the dam opening up for a lot more Alex Ovechkin goals? I'd really like to think so. And it was due in large part to the great performance from Aliaksei Protas, who generated 3 points as well, showcasing that this Capitals team is resurgent against a tough Rangers team. I guess there's no two ways about it that the Capitals could have definitely walked away from this game with a loss, but they found a way to turn it around. And I think more than anything, this kind of signifies a turning point for the Capitals as they strive to, kind of say refocus this season. I guess might be a strong way of looking at it, but just to kind of take stock of this team, to not get too caught up in losses here and there, and just concentrate on truly great things. And the great evening that it was for Alex Ovechkin, showcasing elite skating. That was some of the things that was apparent, even though it's scoring from the left-hand side. Again, ultimately, I don't care where he's scoring goals from. He was huge. And it was a different Alex Ovechkin out there tonight. He seemed like to rise to the occasion, winning puck battles, elite skating out there, that he was definitely in the mindset that this was going to be a great game. And he got it going. He got it going for the team. His opening goal at 1-0. That's what it did. It illustrated his ability to maintain possession and find the right spot for a precise shot past Igor Shesterkin, who is no slouch in net for the Rangers. And so the fact that the Capitals were able to beat the Rangers, the fact that the Capitals were able to beat Igor Shesterkin with all the trouble that they had against Andrei Vasilevsky in the last game, it speaks volumes that this team has resilience, and they're not getting caught up in losses that are inevitably going to happen here and there. Ovechkin was huge, scored again thanks to a great pass from Protas. With these goals, Ovechkin was huge, reached 857 career goals, now just 39 shy of Wayne Gretzky's all-time record. He's closing in. Like I talked about, is this going to be the thing that opens the dam and really gets him going? It's quite an evening for him. And now just 39 shy of Wayne Gretzky's all-time record, while he also, it was a big game as well, surpassed Jaromir Jagr for the third most even strength goals in league history. And that's one of the things I talk about on this show, is all the milestones that he's knocking down between here and catching Gretzky and passing Gretzky, that they're all these milestones that he's breaking between here and there. But Protas, I think that he is also starting to find his confidence as well. If we remember back on his time joining the team, you'll have to excuse me, he was selected third in the 2019 NHL draft, and he was the guy just a few seasons ago, came to camp with the Capitals, and I don't think with any real big hopes of joining the team, but played so well that the Capitals could not send him down. They're like, well, we need to see a whole lot more from him. He has been absolutely huge on that top line. And that was evident. His performance tonight against the Rangers, ultimately, I would say, highlighted his work ethic and skill as he used his size. And that's what it's all about. He's a huge dude, and he dominated puck battles and created offensive chances. Just huge out there. And one of the things that was real apparent is, you see the back of his hockey card and his statistics, and you see how big of a guy he is. It's sometimes not evident until you see him stacked up against another guy. Aliaksei Protas is a huge dude out there, and I think is just a perfect match on that top line. But not even just that. If that wasn't enough, after assisting on Ovechkin's 2 first period goals, Protas sealed the game, I guess I'm going to say, with a game-winning goal by redirecting a shot from Rasmus Sandin. So Protas, huge for the Capitals. There's a lot to be excited about here, Capitals fans. Line 1, line 2, knockout, and also the fourth line tonight. Plus, you saw Jakob Vrana, he got a couple good shots in there as well. Huge. But another guy to not get lost in all of this, kind of keeping in with the topic of the top two lines being absolutely amazing for the Capitals, is Connor McMichael on that second line. Just this whole first and second line combinations are perfect for the Capitals, and Connor McMichael has been killing it, leading the team with 10 shots on goal and accumulating 8 points over his last 6 games. Huge. And, you take a look at it, it's Protas, it's McMichael. They have been, I would say, vital for the Caps' offensive success. And, maybe not two names that if you're not a Capitals fan, you're too familiar with. I guess I would say that McMichael is more known outside of the Capitals circle. But Protas, while he is a big name, I don't think that he's a household name in the NHL. But I think with his play tonight and here recently, I think that will change. But with the team scoring at least 3 goals in all but one game this season, they now look like a serious competitor in the NHL. And all the people, all the pundits, all the people that say they know this team really well, what do they have to say about the Capitals now? That they are rolling and playing very well, that I think that it is kind of silencing a lot of the haters around the NHL. People that said, well, this Capitals team isn't going to be any good. You traded for and got Pierre-Luc Dubois. You have Mangiapane, but these aren't elite level players. They're not going to make a difference. I think that those players, Protas, McMichael, Dubois, Ovechkin, they are silencing a lot of the critics. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about the defense and how it stood tall. Not just guys on the blue line, but this team playing defensively. And what is the outlook for Jakob Chychrun? I'll discuss straight ahead. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. PrizePicks is the only really real money daily fantasy platform with injury insurance policy, so your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks keeps your lineup live. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50. It's guaranteed. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's use code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holming. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps, and follow along all season long, as I will have a lot of information surrounding your Capitals. But talking next here about the defense for the Capitals, and I'm not necessarily talking about the blue line, even though the blue line was huge. And then the big loss for Jakob Chychrun. After Matt Roy, the 2 big pieces that were acquired in the offseason, Matt Roy, we know, was put on the injured reserve, which presented an opportunity for Scarbosa to get the call up. But now to add insult to injury or injury to insult, Jakob Chychrun left the game. What will the Capitals do? All things considered, I'm going to say about the defense is, despite some hiccups, the remaining defenders, minus Chychrun, you know who I'm talking about, Sandin, Van Riemsdyk, Martin Fehervary, those kind of players, they had to log significant minutes and effectively limit a lethal Rangers team. If that blue line did not stand at all, the Capitals could have definitely walked away from this game as a loss. And you think it would be bad after losing to the Lightning. Imagine back-to-back losses. I think that Capitals fans' heads would be swimming. But talking about that blue line, playing a crucial role in securing the win. especially in the final moments when it got a bit dicey. When, you kind of start to see it in your head, this is too good to be true. Something is going to fall apart. The Capitals were victorious. But like I talked about, it wasn't just the blue line. Defensively, Protas proved his worth on the other end of the spectrum as well. So scoring goals, assisting, those kind of things. And also defensively, maintaining a critical role on the PK, even after breaking his stick. Those are tough moments, isn't it? When you're trying to stay in the play, you don't got your stick kind of dancing around a little bit. So Protas was huge, getting assists and also being responsible defensively as well. And that was his big thing. He kind of had like a relentless pursuit of a loose puck that led to a shorthanded opportunity against Shesterkin. And that's ultimately what's showcasing his value on both ends of the ice. So he can score goals. He can assist on goals. He can be responsible with the puck, and without the puck, he is quite the Swiss Army knife for the Capitals. And Protas has been on a scoring tear lately, I'm going to say, racking up 6 points in his last 6 games. And 7 points in the season's opening game. So let me know, did you have Protas circled on your bingo card as being one of the big Capitals contributors this season? Ultimately, I like Protas's game, of course, but I definitely did not see this kind of Protas. Definitely, that's for sure. And it's a pleasant surprise. Don't get me wrong. He was huge with the Capitals tonight. Like I said, getting in on assists defensively with the puck, he was huge. But the biggest setback in this game, however, is Jakob Chychrun leaving the game. And how much time will he be gone? Of course, they're always very vague about it. They don't like to let any of the people know how long they'll be out. But what we know right now is the Capitals, they did encounter some challenges in this game. It wasn't all gravy, including that early exit of Chychrun due to an upper body injury just 1 minute, 50 seconds into the first period. So that could have definitely been something that could have been insurmountable for the Capitals, but they found a way to overcome. And like with all of these things, the details of this injury remain unclear. And we don't know. Half the time we never know. We don't even officially know what's wrong with Matt Roy. They're just upper body, lower body, lower body. Well, what we know about Jakob Chychrun is that it is upper body. And when we noticed the problem was that it appeared Chychrun was struggling with discomfort in his back kind of hip area before leaving the ice. And that absence put a lot of pressure on the Capitals defense, forcing them to only play with 5 defensemen, but stood tall. There were some lapses in the defense, that is for sure. I'm talking about Rasmus Sandin in the beginning of the game, coughing up the puck. And, I think all things considered, he cleaned it up towards the end of the game. But I think that we need to see a whole lot more from Rasmus Sandin. He was the guy that the Capitals picked up a couple years ago, that he is going to be one of the future faces of this team. And in that same breath, they said that Ethan Bear, we know how that's gone so far. So I don't think that Rasmus Sandin played horribly. Actually, like I said, towards after that hiccup to start the game, I think he found his footing. But we need to see a whole lot more from him, especially if Jakob Chychrun misses any substantial amount of time. He was huge. He was a game changer, is a game changer for the Capitals blue line. So we need this team firing on all cylinders. So let's hope. Let's keep our fingers crossed, our toes crossed, whatever you got to cross to hope that Jakob Chychrun can come back to this team sooner than later. And Matt Roy too, to start this season, we're like, man, this blue line is stacked. There's going to be so many players. They're going to be expendable. Well, guess what happens all the time? Murphy's Law. It almost seems like that injuries are abundant. And Matt Roy, the big acquisition, the 6-year contract, all so excited. First game out. Jakob Chychrun, the big player that is really making a name for himself on the Capitals. And will they bring him back after this season? Injured. So definitely not the start of the season that we're looking for. And it seems like the blue line in particular is taking the brunt of the injury stick. So let's hope this team can get healthy. The thing that I know for sure is Dylan McIlrath, who we'll talk about in the next segment, has been huge. This could also present an opportunity for Alexeyev or another player down in Hershey. It will be interesting to see how it shakes out. And of course, I will have you guys covered on Locked On Capitals the entire way. All right, so coming up here straight ahead, we'll talk about the moment I was waiting for. Oh, yes. The moment that this game started, I was so excited about the possibility and inevitability, ultimately, that Dylan McIlrath and Matt Rempe or Tom Wilson were going to lay the smack down. It lived up to all I had hoped for and more. I'll talk about it coming up. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. And there is a lot of football played on any given Sunday or Monday or Thursday. And sometimes there's a game on and you're interested, say it's a Commanders or Ravens, but sometimes it's a weekend and there's not a game that you want, or you just want to make the games more intriguing. Open up the FanDuel app, put a little bit of money on the game. All of a sudden, all of those games got that much more exciting. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So like I talked about towards the tail end of the second segment, there is when I heard that Matt Rempe was going to get the call up, I'm like, it's on and it's time for payback. And what am I talking about payback? Do I just want random acts of violence? No, I want two willing participants who McIlrath, Rempe were both willing participants, two tough guys at the end of the day. But why did I want that payback? Well, considering in the playoffs last season, TVR out, TJ Oshie out. But when it came time to pay the piper, to answer the bell, he cowered away from Tom Wilson. And I'm not so delusional that I don't know why. I think that the Rangers were playing well, and Lavaliette's like, hey, don't do anything dumb or you'll be sitting on the bench. If the time is right and you need to fight, fine. But things are going in our favor. Why do we want to screw it up? Ultimately, that's why it went the way that it did. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Dylan McIlrath got the best of Rempe. That is for sure. Now, it wasn't a total blowout. I think that to a certain extent, it was somewhat of a fair fight. I'm going to say, however, that I think that Dylan McIlrath is the better fighter. They kind of like to stiff arm each other and hold each other out like that. It's the move where you're out like this and you can push like that. And that's ultimately what got Rempe in the face. You know, I know the tactic there is to hold them back as far as you possibly can. And, you know, your fist and your arm spread is only so long that you can't reach. But the true street fighters, the true great hockey players like Wilson and these guys know that you're going to hold straight. Well, then fine. I'm going to punch with this hand. And that's what happened. And it was impressive. And ultimately, Rempe had those two gashes under his face, kind of somewhat similar to what we saw with Delorier in the Flyers game. So Dylan McIlrath is proving his worth, and in more ways than one. Tom Wilson doesn't need to fight as much. And I know it's fun to see a Tom Wilson fight, but this is a guy that has a long history of getting suspended, spending a lot of time in the penalty box, and he can score goals. We need Tom Wilson on the ice. We need Dylan McIlrath as well, but it's a perfect scenario to have a guy like Dylan on the team that can answer the bell when they call up their resident junkyard dog. But taking a look at it, McIlrath 6'5" and Rempe 6'9", resulting in what I'm going to say was a decisive victory for McIlrath, marking a strong return after an 8-year absence from the NHL. So taking a look at it, quite a moment for those players. And you take a look at McIlrath, he's been a fixture on this team this year, cracked camp. He is a guy that spent some time in the NHL to start his career. He spent some time in the AHL and never lost focus. And there was that interview on TNT. I want to say that, he's a tough guy, but very humble, and a guy that never lost his focus. Just knew that he brought something special to the game and was patient. He's not the youngest guy anymore. And you had to think it's to some extent that he probably thought about hanging up the skates, that it's just not going to happen. But he kept the faith. And I think he has been absolutely huge for the Capitals. I'm so happy he's here. And it's one of the guys that I talked about last summer that if somehow, some way, Dylan McIlrath can be on this team, I'm loving it. Well, that is what happened when Roy got injured. It presented an opportunity. Now, the tough part of this equation, however, is what happens when Roy does come back. Is it going to be McIlrath on the shelf and just called out when they're playing a tough team, when you need to crack a can of McIlrath? I don't want to look too far in the future, but right now I feel confident with Dylan in the lineup. That if there is someone that wants to be the tough guy, we have someone on this team that will answer the bell. All right, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals and making it your first listen of the day. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.